everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. In this video, we're going to be talking about the 10 lost tribes. We're at it again. We're going to look at the tracker that I've put together. Going to discuss two more entries, okay? But first, we're going to look at the poll that I did. I'll bet you thought that I wasn't going to come back to this, but I am. This was asking, do you believe that there is a main body, a hidden group, hidden somewhere, whether it's the North Pole, outer space, or caverns or hollow earth or whatever, yes or no. So 53% said yes, and then 47% said no. This is from 647 votes so far. If you want to take this poll, if you haven't already, go to the community tab on my channel. Okay, so home, videos, playlist, community, and then you can take the poll, but you have to scroll down to 2 weeks ago because that's when I first put it out. Okay, so I have two things I'm going to go over today, one for and one opposing the main body theory. The first one is going to be from Cleon Skousen. I've talked about him before on the channel because it seems that he actually had input and influenced the third temple whenever that is built. He spoke with the people that would be in charge of building the third temple in Jerusalem, and he consulted with them. So go back and check out that video. Just do a search for like third temple or Cleon Skousen to watch that video. Okay, so who is he? Okay, Willard Cleon Skousen was an American conservative author with the John Birch Society and a faith-based theorist. You guys, I always get asked, like, why don't you say this? Why don't you say that? It's because there's people that don't like you talking about certain things on here. And then if you do, then there are consequences. And so, sorry, I know that's kind of like generic, but there's certain things that I'm not allowed to say. So anyway, he's a notable and supporter of the John Birch Society. Skousen's works involve a wide range of subjects, including the Six-Day War, Mormon eschatology, the new and parenting. His most popular works are The 5,000-Year Leap and his children, Mark Skousen and Joanna Skousen, run Freedom Fest, an annual convention sponsored by Charles G. Koch or something like that. Okay, so this was sent to me by somebody in my personal life, someone that I know. We're going to be looking at just a small portion from The Cleansing of America. This was a book that he wrote in 1994. Okay, this is it right here. I'll put the link below in case you want to purchase the book. This is on Amazon, and for this listing, it's just for hardcover or audio CD. All right, this is the cover of the book, and this is the quote. So I guess it looks like these are like maybe his list of things that are going to happen at the second coming. So anyway, we're looking at 8th. Okay, it says, after the fall of Gog and Magog, following the Battle of Armageddon, the remnants of the remaining nations will be fighting and quarreling amongst themselves. Meanwhile, the 10 tribes will make their miraculous return to the temples in America. 12,000 will be chosen from each of the 12,000 will be chosen from each of the tribes, and these 144,000 will go out among the nations to warn them for the last time. Those who reject their message will be sealed up to destruction at the time of Christ's second coming. Now, this is a variation from what I've heard before. Different theories that I've heard believe that the 144,000 will be in operation before Gog and Magog, or maybe during, but not after. So, but I guess according to his research, that's what he believes. Now, we have talked about the 144,000 several times now. And you have to go back to Revelation chapter 7, okay? And let me just do a quick review of this. And there's always new people joining the channel. So, okay, so chapter 7 of the book of Revelation is where we learn about the 144,000. And a really important part are these first few verses. And after these things, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God, and he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels, to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, Hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads. And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and they were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. So in other words, before those angels could begin their work, they were not allowed to do it until the 144,000 were sealed. After that's done, okay, now you can go hurt the earth. So the problem with what Cleon Skousen says here is that Wilford Woodruff, at the dedication of the Salt Lake Temple in 1893, he said that those angels were released at that time, and then he repeated it again a year later during a temple workers excursion. I'm not going to rehash that or pull up those sources because I've already done it a few times. But if you haven't seen those videos, let me just put that in the description for you. Oh gosh, I do so many videos. I'll have to do a search. Let's see. Give me just 1 second. If I don't do this now, then I'm going to forget about it. Okay, search. I'm just going to look up angel. Okay, 1893, the exact year the 4 angels were released to hurt the earth and reap down the fields. So I'll put this video in the description below in case you missed it. All right. I've done a couple other ones, but I mean well, here we go. The 4 angels, I gotta fix that. Unleashed at the Salt Lake Temple dedication and finished by the rededication. So here's a second one that I did. Okay, so I'll put those 2 videos in the description below in case you missed them. All right. So at least as far as the 144,000 goes, from what I can tell, that has already taken place. And I'm not just saying that haphazardly. I have a playlist, an entire playlist called the 144,000, which gives more and more and more reason to believe that that's something that's already taken place, and it's not the way that it's being portrayed by Cleon Skousen and others. And by the way, I'm not like saying anything bad against Cleon Skousen. I just think that he has that wrong. I know that he was an incredible scholar. He knew a lot of things. He was a good member of the church. He was incredible. But that doesn't mean that everything that he said was absolutely correct. Okay, so I'm putting this reference on my tracker. So what I have here is I'm listing all the different quotes from all the different general authorities and scholars on this spreadsheet because I'm going to keep track of who has said what. And you already are probably familiar with this. Okay, so if it's in red or if it says no in column D, that means that they do not believe that there's a main body, okay, somewhere. If it's in dark red, it means that they just flat out said no. If it's in light red, then they have said something that runs contrary to the idea that the 10 lost tribes are somewhere, okay? Here, let me freeze row 1. And I don't need to do that for row 2. So anyway, we have Brad Wilcox earlier this year that flat out says no. Elder Reuben V. Olliott of the 70, no. And then D. Todd Christofferson, Dallin H. Oaks, and President Nelson have either used scriptures or said things that are typically used to support the 10 lost tribe idea, that like the main body of the 10 lost tribes being still together somewhere. Something that runs contrary. For example, Dallin H. Oaks talks about how the Dead Sea Scrolls are an example of how additional scripture may come forth in the future, opposed to living prophets with the 10 lost tribes hand delivering those scriptures to our general authorities. He said, no, it could come forth the same way that the Dead Sea Scrolls did. Bruce R. McConkie on a couple occasions just flat out said no. And then if it's in yellow, this is a scholar, because um, I'm not going to give them the same level of credit that I do to a general authority, obviously. So right here we have Vern G. Swanson, Hiram L. Andrus, and Cleon Skousen. This is the most recent entry that are yes, they do believe that there's a main body. Over here, we're going to go over this one next. Joseph F. McConkie, who is also a scholar but not a general authority, the son of Bruce R. McConkie, and he says no. If you go further back in time, we start coming across those that support the main group idea, namely Joseph Fielding Smith, which didn't outright say yes, but he was more in favor with this quote. We have James E. Talmage that just flat out said yes. We've already gone over that. We have Orson Pratt that just outright said yes. And then we have this person, he's not a scholar, but he was an early church member. And in his journal, he claims that Joseph Smith told him that flat out yes, that they were in the North Pole. Okay, so that's why I put North Polar region. But I'm not going to give it the same credibility as a general authority, because he could have been lying, or he may have had it wrong. It's not firsthand, like it's not directly from the original source. It's just something that he wrote in his journal or his diary. Okay, so it's pretty clear to me that in the early church, this doctrine or this idea wasn't fully understood, and then later something changed. I believe that probably further revelation was received, and now they realize, oh, there's not, a group of 10 lost tribes somewhere, that it doesn't have to do with that. We misunderstood, because it seems to change possibly as early as 1971, although I still probably have many more quotes to fill in here. But starting at least in 1971, all general authorities run against the idea of there being a main body. Okay, but the scholars, these three at least, still believe that there is. And then there's Joseph F. McConkie who says no in the year 2010, and that's what we're going to look at right now. So let's see. Oh, and by the way, like, someone was like, you know what, I'm going to unsubscribe because when it comes to the 10 Lost Tribes, you're not teaching the gospel, you're teaching the gospel of Christian Homestead. So I guess me compiling all these different references is me teaching the doctrine of Christian Homestead, so just so you know. All right, so Joseph Field McConkie, this is who he is. Joseph Fielding McConkie, he passed away in 2013, was a professor emeritus of ancient scripture at Brigham Young University. He is son of LDS apostle Bruce R. McConkie and Amelia Smith McConkie. He authored or co-authored over 25 books and speaks regularly. Well, he spoke regularly at LDS gatherings. He married Brenda Kempton McConkie, and they are the parents of 9 children. Some of his students went on to become professors, doctors, and judge, including William Sheffield, for whom the BYU Religious Education Program created a special curriculum. Okay, so this is Joseph Field McConkie. In 2010, as part of this, I'm not really familiar with this. This must be some like BYU magazine or something. This is called Religious Educator Volume 11, Number 1, 2010, The Gathering of Israel by Joseph Fielding McConkie. And it's basically, I don't know who's asking the questions, or if this is like an article and he's just kind of like writing questions and then answering them. But this is a question answer format. And let me just get down to my highlights and we'll see what he said. Okay, question. Let me zoom in even more in case you want to follow along. Question. So what is the doctrine of the scattering of Israel? Answer. In ancient times, when Israel turned from Christ and broke their covenants, she lost the right to a land of inheritance. It being a seal or token of the covenant, she was scattered among the nations of the earth. Prophecy repeatedly foretold that Israel would be scattered among all the nations of the earth, and that scattering continues to this day. We as a church have been commissioned to gather scattered Israel, which we do by sending out missionaries to declare Christ and to invite all who believe to be baptized. When appropriate, those baptized are invited to gather with the saints as they did in Kirtland, Nauvoo, and the Rocky Mountains during pioneer days. This is so that they can receive the fullness of the temple. Now that the church is in a position to take temples to the ends of the earth, members of the church in foreign lands are asked to stay in their homelands and build up Zion there. Question: does this apply in the same way to the lost tribes? Answer: yes, the plan of salvation is the same for all alike. Question: this seems to suggest that the lost tribes are lost spiritually rather than physically. Would that be correct? Answer: yes. They are lost in the same sense that the children that the children of Israel were lost when Moses went to them. Not in the sense that they have no knowledge of their longitude and latitude, that they cannot find themselves on a map, or that they cannot find a road that will lead them back to civilization. They are lost in the sense that they do not know what promises were made to their fathers. They do not know the saving truths of the gospel of Jesus Christ, and they do not know where the truth is to be found. And then later on, he talks more about this. Okay, question. There certainly seems to be a lot of confusion about the return of the 10 tribes. Is this gathering of Israel and the return of the 10 tribes one event or two? Answer, quote, the gathering of Israel is one thing, stated Elder Bruce R. McConkie, his father. The return of the 10 tribes to a specified place is another, and Moses gave to men in our day the keys and power to perform both labors. Question: relative to the return of the 10 tribes, what are we to understand about the promise that their prophets will lead them? Oh, before I go into that, by the way, we read in Millennial Messiah that Bruce R. McConkie said that the return of the 10 tribes is where, after the second coming, they will literally receive their land inheritance again, in the Holy Land. Okay, so in other words, not a main group, but once Christ becomes king, okay, and there are nations no more, at least not how they are now, that Israel will receive its land inheritance that it originally had. In other words, let me pull it up here. Libraries, scriptures, study helps, Bible maps, number 3, the division of the 12 tribes. So in other words, the time will come when I guess there's not really going to be a Jordan or a Syria right now, like there is today, or their borders will be changed. And you're going to have Manasseh, or at least the half tribe of Manasseh, Gad, and Reuben, and then all the other tribes back in their original land inheritance. And that's what is meant by they're going to be literally restored, rather than there's a big group that's hidden somewhere that has to make their way from space or the North Pole or whatever the case may be. Okay, so question. Relative to the return of the 10 tribes, what are we to understand about the promise that their prophets will lead them? Answer. Again, Elder McConkie has responded, and this is talking about his father, Bruce R. McConkie. Their prophets, who are they? Are they to be holy men called from some unknown place and people? Are they prophets unbeknown to the presiding officers of, quote, the only true and living church upon the face of the whole earth? DNC 130. Perish the thought. The president of the church, who holds the keys to lead the 10 tribes from the nations of the north, wherein they now reside, holds also the keys of salvation for all men. There are not two true churches on the earth, only one. There are not two gospels or two plans of salvation, only one. There are not two competing organizations, both having divine approval, only one. Quote, is Christ divided? 1 Corinthians 1:13. God forbid. Their prophets are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They are stake presidents and bishops and quorum presidents who are appointed to guide and direct the destinies of their stake and wards and quorums. Question. Do we know anything about the highway that is spoken of as being cast up in the great deep upon which the 10 tribes are to return? Answer. The language comes from Isaiah. We will let him respond. Quote, and an highway shall be there and a way, and it shall be called the way of holiness. The unclean shall not pass over it, but it shall be for those, the wayfaring men, though fools, shall not err therein. No lion shall be there, nor any ravenous beast shall go up thereon. It shall be found there, but the redeemed shall walk there. And the ransomed of the Lord shall return, and come to Zion with songs and everlasting joy upon their heads. They shall obtain joy and gladness, and sorrow and sighings shall flee away. Isaiah was speaking of the straight and narrow path, not a physical highway built of asphalt or cement. And by the way, you can find this when you're reading that scripture in D&C talking about a highway being cast up out of the deep. When you click on the footnotes, it takes you to this and other scriptures in Isaiah where he's talking about a path of holiness. You know, in modern terms, with the term that we're using nowadays in the church, you could call it the covenant path, right? When you're on the covenant path, it's a way of holiness. Unclean things don't go there. You don't have these predators like lions. In other words, the predators of Satan, his followers, the natural man, things like that are not there. There's protection in being on the covenant path. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Okay, question. Does the text indicate why the tribes will return? Answer. It appears that they will come to receive the blessings of the temple. Consider this language. Quote, and they shall fall down and be crowned with glory, even in Zion, by the hands of the servants of the Lord, even the children of Ephraim, and they shall be filled with songs of everlasting joy. D&C 133, verses 32 to 33. Question, have the 10 tribes been scattered throughout all the nations of the earth, or have they remained together as a people? Answer, we have a host of scriptural texts that tell us that all the 12 of the tribes of Israel have been scattered among all the nations of the earth. Mormon stated the matter thus, quote, and as surely as the Lord liveth, he will gather in from the four quarters of the earth all the remnant of the seed of Jacob who are scattered abroad upon all the face of the earth. And as he hath covenanted with all the house of Jacob, even so shall the covenant wherewith he hath covenanted with the house of Jacob be fulfilled in his own due time, unto the restoring all the house of Jacob unto the knowledge of the covenant that he hath covenanted with them. And then shall they know their Redeemer, who is Jesus Christ, the Son of God. And then shall they be gathered in from the four quarters of the earth unto their own lands, from whence they have been dispersed. Yea, as the Lord liveth, so shall it be. Amen. 3 Nephi 5, verses 24 to 26. Scriptural language cannot be more emphatic than this. As both an introduction and a conclusion, Mormon states that if God lives, that he has said, what he has said must be true. He tells us that all the tribes have been scattered among all the nations, and that they are to come to a knowledge of the covenant that God made with their fathers, and to a knowledge of Christ before they can be returned to their lands of inheritance. It appears that the 10 tribes were together in various groups and were visited by Christ after he visited the Nephites, but like the Nephites, they became, quote, a lost and fallen people and were scattered. To capture and summarize the primary message of the Book of Mormon, Moroni paraphrases a charge given by Isaiah to the scattered remnants of Israel in the last days. Quote, awake and arise from the dust, O Jerusalem, yea, and put on thy beautiful garments, O daughter of Zion, and strengthen thy stakes, and enlarge thy borders forever, that thou mayest no more be confounded, that the covenants of the eternal Father which he hath made unto thee, O house of Israel, may be fulfilled. Moroni 10, verse 31. Having so said, Moroni then invites Israel in her lost and fallen state to return to the church. He says, quote, yea, come unto Christ and be perfected in him, and deny yourselves of all ungodliness. And if ye shall deny yourselves of all ungodliness and love God with all your might, mind, and strength, then is his grace sufficient for you, that by his grace ye may be perfect in Christ. And if by the grace of God ye are perfect in Christ, ye can in no wise deny the power of God. And again, if ye by the grace of God are perfect in Christ, and deny not his power, then are ye sanctified in Christ by the grace of God, through the shedding of the blood of Christ, which is in the covenant of the Father unto the remission of your sins, that ye become holy without spot. Moroni 10, verses 32 to 33, emphasis added. Isaiah said, quote, "Put on thy strength, O Zion." Isaiah 52:1. In a Revelation in the Doctrine and Covenants, the question is asked, quote, "What is meant by the command in Isaiah 52nd chapter, first verse, which saith, Put on thy strength, O Zion?" And to what people had Isaiah reference to? D&C 113:7. The stated answer is that, quote, "He had reference to those whom God should call in the last days, who should hold the power of the priesthood to bring again Zion and the redemption of Israel, and to put on her strength is to put on the authority of the priesthood, which she, Zion, has a right by lineage, also to return to that power which she had lost." D&C 113:8. This clearly places the whole story of the gathering of Israel in the context of an event that is to take place under the direction of the priesthood. The birthright of the priesthood, it also notes, still rests with the scattered remnant of Abraham's seed. So it is that we return to the events that took place April 3rd, 1836 in the Kirtland Temple, as recorded in D&C 110. Following the appearance of Christ to accept that edifice as his holy house came Moses, Elias, and Elijah, each to restore his distinctive priesthood keys. The order of their coming is a type. It represents perfectly the history of the house of Israel. First came Moses to restore the keys by which the great message of the restoration would be declared to Israel, lost and scattered to the ends of the earth. She was to be gathered again to the covenant of her fathers, specifically and particularly the Abrahamic covenant. Then came Elias from Abraham's day to restore the authority by which a man and a woman are sealed together for time and all eternity, and are granted all the blessings promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Then came Elijah with the keys by which all gospel ordinances are sealed. The order is perfect, the doctrine sweet, and the way sure. And I believe that's it. All right. So here we have a case where there's two different scholars that disagree. We have Cleon Skousen and Joseph Fielding McConkie. And that's it. I don't know what else to really say other than that. I'm not trying to preach the gospel of Christian Homestead. I'm trying to look at the words of the prophets, apostles, general authorities, and scholars and put it all together and make sense. Okay? And this is the conclusion that I'm coming to. Like, how do you explain what he said? How do you explain what Brad Wilcox, Reuben V. Aliad, Dallin H. Oaks, Russell M. Nelson, Bruce R. McConkie, LeGrand Richards, how do you explain that if all you're holding on to is this back here? Why are you only choosing to look at this all the way back here in the 1800s, early 1900s, and you're ignoring everything that's been said from 1971 on? And there so far I have more in favor of there not being a main body. Right? Are these not also general authorities? And do we not know that the Lord works line upon line, precept upon precept? In fact, the last video that I did, it was the live stream where we talked about how in this last worldwide devotional, they were hitting on the idea that the restoration is ongoing, that not everything has been revealed or restored, and it's going to continue. So I don't know why it's hard to think that back here maybe it wasn't so important to iron out this particular detail, whether the 10 lost tribes were in the North Pole, but maybe when the time was right, it was revealed. And that's why we don't see any more general authorities talking about it since 1971. If you have more, if you have more quotes, if you have more sources, send them to me. I will add them to this list. I think there have been some people that have already responded. In fact, I think some people have commented in the comments. So if I haven't liked your comment or responded to it yet, it's to help me just remember to go back to it, because it shows up when I look at the comments. If I respond to a comment, then it goes away. I can do something to make it come back, but just to help me keep it organized, I'm going to go back. I'm going to look at all the different comments. I'm going to go to every single video, and I'm going to get this all filled out. We're going to get to the bottom of this. But I'm currently not anticipating that the trend will change. If you've sent me anything that's in favor of the 10 Lost Tribes being in a main group, I'm going to go ahead and guess that there's like a 99% chance that it's somewhere all the way back here from 1931 and before. I'm going to guess that that's probably the case. And I'd like to know. I haven't heard any satisfactory answers as to why, if you're part of this 53%, what is your explanation for Bruce R. McConkie, LeGrand Richards, President Nelson, President Oaks, D. Todd Christofferson, Reuben V. Aliad, and Brad Wilcox? What is your explanation for that? And why are these ignored, but these are given priority? Like, I just want to, I'm not trying to be mean. I just want to understand the rationale. Why is only one accepted and the other is not? With my rationale, you might turn the question around on me and be like, well, why do you go with these guys? The reason why is because of time. Because it makes sense to me that back in the early church, the church itself was brand new. And not everything was ironed out in the very beginning. And that was talked about. That was talked about during the worldwide devotional, how Elijah came and restored the sealing power. But like the whole thing with ironing out, being sealed to parents, and then going on up the line as far as you can go, that wasn't clarified until 50 years later, right? So things get filled in later in the church. Things come through as a process. The word of wisdom came as a process. We went through the 4 stages in which it was implemented. When it was first received, it wasn't by way of commandment, but later, after the 4 phases went through, it became a commandment, and it became one of the requirements to enter the temple. I've done a video about that. Okay, we've already gone over this. We've already gone over this. It was in one of the church publications how it talked about that there were like basically 4 phases to the word of wisdom being implemented as we know it today. So, having that knowledge and looking at this trend, it would seem that a way that you can explain this discrepancy is that they didn't have that revelation back then. Based on their knowledge back then, it was like, oh yeah, okay, there must be a main group somewhere. But then, at some point, and we don't have the whole story, I don't think, revelation is received, and it's probably not like that big of a deal to where they need to like go in general conference and be like, okay, listen everybody, there's not 10 lost tribes in the North Pole. It's probably not something that's really that urgent, right? But they have left a lot of breadcrumbs and just, in some cases, flat out statements. And this might be a process where they're not going to say it outright at first, but maybe they're kind of leading up to that. First, they want to drop a lot of hints and be like, okay, guys, we need to start. That's not how it is. And maybe at some point, they're going to give the full revelation that there's not a group somewhere. And I know that there's more to look into. I know about the hymn from Eliza R. Snow. I know about the idea of like coming from the ends of heaven, because some people will take that phrase in the scriptures, come from the ends of heaven, and take it like literally, like from outer space. Whereas I'm going to do a research into that, and I'm assuming that what I'm going to find is that that's a phrase that talks about coming from a distant land, but some people want to take that and be like, no, it's talking about coming from outer space. So whatever, you know, we'll get there. We'll just take it step by step. And by the way, before I forget this, I have a playlist. Here it is, 10 Lost Tribes of Israel. So this isn't something that I'm just thinking about for the first time. I've put a lot of time and effort and hours into this idea. So I'm not just like, you know, because there's always going to be the people that are like, well, you just haven't researched it enough. No, I actually have. I have, and I'm going to continue to research it. I'm going to research it all the way until we receive official word. But this is what I have so far. So if you want to know more about how I've come to this conclusion and you want to just learn more about this topic, go to my playlist. I have 48 videos about this topic. All right. Okay, well, that's going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.